Today on Crazy Car Projects, we replaced the fluid level and put a water pump on. Yeah. What you've missed off screen since the last one is a lot of fighting with the gasket surface, and you can still see there's a little bit. It's smooth, but there's a little bit of this stuff they used. I don't know, something similar to Honda Bond on it, and I've worked hard to get it off and clean as I can. But I am going to use some Insta-Gasket because it's not perfectly, it's not a perfect surface for bonding with a regular gasket. Not bad, but it's not perfect. So I'm going to use one of these 4 flavors, although considering how much I had to fight with the bonding agent GM used on this, I'm probably not doing the Honda Bond. I know you can use solvent to get it off, but it's like, okay, I don't want to dissolve anything else. Also, look back at one of my charts for what the sensors are which. This sensor up here is the cam position sensor, and that's your oil pressure sensor according to the chart. So, and we'll get these on and get this off. Now that was another one. This is your fluid level sensor, and if you read most of the literature on these GM products for this engine, it's supposed to be behind the battery. Battery's over there, but and the computer's here on this one. But so it's behind the computer and on the side, which was another thing. A lot of them showed it being on the back where this transcooler line is. So also not in the right place. Alright. And to get this off, I'll start with the level sensor. It has a little spring clip here. Just take a hook and get underneath it and just pop it off. Do the same on the bottom. Pop it off.
I apologize about that. We have our own version of no muffler Newton around here.
And you just get in there and catch that hook and push it back. And it disappeared, of course, somewhere down in the car, which I'm going to find. And it should just pop out. A little bit of wiggle, and there we go. And lift and pop, and that gasket's still good. And it's all corroded up, and that's probably why it's giving all the misfeeds. So I'll put a new one on and go from there. There's the original part number if you need that. 100-96163.
Yep. 100-96163.
It's a good time to check your pins. This has no corrosion, which is great, and I'll use a little dielectric on it to help prevent it. The gasket's also in good shape, but I'll grease it too just to get more life out of it. Yeah. But yeah, that's a quick, easy one. Like the biggest issue with it was well, now figuring out where the spring clip went to. And before that, it was finding pine needles that's probably been in there for 20 years. But with the location on them, it gives different things. And some of them, like I mentioned on one of the others when I removed this bottle, some of them show that there's a sensor back here or under here, but on these tanks, I don't know which ones had that, but I don't think they were any of the older ones. It must be one of the newer ones. If then, it could just be bad documentation.
What is the model number of this again? This is a 1990.
This is a model number. I don't know what the designation from GM was. It was a 1994 Buick Regal Gran Sport with the 3800 Series 1. Okay, camera objected, but but yeah, and from what my research on this thing, I've discovered that this time period, this was actually set up, when they set it up for the supercharger, even though I think the supercharger was only available on the Riviera, maybe the Park Avenue, but I think just the Riviera originally.
Was the supercharger ever available in the Series 1? Or was it just the 2 or 3?
It was the very end of the Series 1 it was available. I thought it was only on Series 2 too, but then I got doing research and no. Series 1 did get fitted with a supercharger.
The Riata was supposed to get it, but the Riata was killed before you could.
Yeah, but apparently the Riviera still got it. So, but they'd already changed the engine, so this would be Series 1.5. Show better, because I don't know if you saw or I misspoke or whatever when I first did the sensors, but these are good to know. Oil sensor, oil pressure sensor, which is currently actively rust proofing.
It's preserving your vehicle.
Your camshaft and your crank. That should be your crank sensor. So, yeah. These are the 3 sensors on this end.
Was that it?
And I'm going to go ahead and do this. Find it. I managed to get an Made in America GM part.
How old is this?
It's new old stock, but it's an exact replacement for what's on there. I have one that's new stock that I got first, and I found that thing.
It's like the last one that the company had before they shut down and everything went to China.
Let's grease in this. Spread it around a little bit so it helps with the gasket too. And get that in. Oh, should have, may or may not have to add grease to these O-rings. We'll see if I can wiggle them in or if I'm going to have to grease them.
Oops.
I know one thing I can do. I'll pull that and I should have a little coolant. Oh, I finally get all the coolant out. There's a little bit of coolant. Wet it up a little bit. And see, this will slide right on in. There we go. You back in, keeping the hole clean. And push it right in. And there we go. I have solved the fluid level sensor being bad problem.
And you saw it in real time.
Mm-hmm. So that's easy enough fix. I will say, working on any of this, remove this tank. It makes your life a whole lot easier.
Make sure you throw your bottle of Honda Bond down when you do that.
I'm not even going to use that. Now I've just got to decide whether I'm going to use the black stuff, which is traditionally what you use, the JB Weld red high temp that's for exhaust more than anything, or the Permatex red, which is my general go-to because why have 20 different tubes of sealant?
Yeah.
Plus it tells me that I did it.
Yes. Be sure to shout at us in the comments which one your favorite. He seems to prefer this.
What?
I prefer whatever I grab first.
Yeah, this one's actually the one I really should have. Apparently I don't even have a tube of. So there's another variant and I don't even have a tube of it apparently anymore. I just realized, well, a lot of the car channels use brake clean to clean everything. I use carbon choke clean to clean everything.
Hold it up so we can see the label.
Well, they're not a sponsor, so they can be if they want to be, but they're not.
We have to make requests and we don't do that. That's a part of it. It's like, oh, we never send it.
But yeah, I've already degreased this with multiple things and cleaned it with multiple things. I'm just doing one more layer before I put the seals on. And this time I'm using carb clean because it dries quick. Let's get you out of the way. I can get these out of the way now because this is going on soon. But clean everything, and then I'm going to use probably that. Just because. And stick the good Fill Pro gasket I got, the blue one, where you don't need to do this to it, but I don't like the surface on the new pump, and I don't completely trust the surface on this, even though it feels nice and smooth. I can see lines. So it will get, oh, and also wear gloves. Don't do as I do. I should be wearing gloves using this stuff to clean with.
If you don't have a nerve problem where you literally can't feel pain in your hands, you may actually want to wear gloves.
Or have leather gloves for hands. Okay, so that takes care of that. Let that dry for a moment, then I will put this stuff on. You can follow me around to the sensor, the gasket. Got a good gasket. This is the junk it came with. Paper one. I'm not using the paper one. This, if everything was perfect, I wouldn't use the stuff, but considering the fact that GM used the stuff, I'm going to use stuff.
Well,
it'll be red, white, and blue.
And apparently this one was also made in the US. So,
and it's new stock.
Yeah, it is new stock. So good on you, Felpro.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing red, white, and blue. This stuff actually does say 4 water pumps. So before people complain in the section that I'm not using this properly, it says 4 water pumps. Doing red, white, and blue because, yeah, I don't trust the surfaces. But I managed to gasket the wrong side first. My plan was to put this on the car and then do this. Well, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm just painting it on. So I'm going to paint it on both sides, stick it on there, stick the pump on, loosely bolt it down so it makes good contact but not torque it. And then I'm going to look up torque specs because I don't know the torque specs. It's easier if you only do it one side at a time, but it's on there and it's sticking. So
all right, now we just got to get the water pump on.
yep, that would just take a second. Complete.
No.
Now to put all the nice new bolts in. I know in the previous one I recommended getting new bolts and everything because you'll like yourself a lot better if you do. But these came nicely done with blue thread lock already on them. But if you're reusing your old ones, use a little bit of blue thread lock on them so they don't back out over time. Because remember, this was in here for 30 years and 160,000 miles. I'm hoping not to change this again for another 30 years, 160,000 miles. Okay, they're all snug, and I'm gonna let it cure overnight. You know, I'm gonna let it go for the 24 hours, then I'll torque it down and get the alternator in. Oh, I can put this clip back on now, since I've decided I'm not changing the line because I couldn't get an exact replacement, and that hose is still in really good shape. It's not an original, it's been replaced. I don't remember, it's been years since it's been replaced, but it's still like new, so yeah, I'm gonna leave it alone. Okay, now to put new hoses on the engine. Done.
Oh god.
But
You've stolen my joke, sir.
yes, I bought one for back here. They're not in horrible shape, they're not leaking, they're not brittle, but they're old. But this one doesn't exist anywhere. And those two, I've been trying, I cannot get the clamps off. So I don't know if I can get the clamps off without taking the engine out. So those are just gonna stay for now. I have replacements. But yeah, they're not getting replaced right now.
I think you would have to, I don't know. It's like, I'm sitting there looking at it and it's like.
Not only are the clamps in hard to get places, the parts that the spring clamps and the spring part is facing a direction I have no idea how to get a pair of pliers to, because one's facing this way And this one over here is facing that way. So, yeah. I'm not sure how to do that without dropping this engine. So, I'm going to worry about it when I drop the engine. Or they explode, one or the other.
All right. So we're waiting on this gasket to cure, so I guess we'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. All right. Well, it's dry and set, and I've got the Torx, which are very small. The small bolts are 11 foot-pounds plus an 80 degree past that. And the long ones are 15 foot-pounds plus a 40 degree. So, about as low setting as I can do on this. Alright, got everything torqued down. It pushed out what little bit of extra red there was, so that's a good sign. So, that's all sealed up. Clean up some of this extra. Going to put this on. Let's see, I think these were 10 foot-pounds or something like that. I gotta look it up again. But, yeah. I may put, yeah. But I gotta look it up again.
Okay.
I forgot to write it down.
All right, so, and the...
I think it was 10.
Yeah, and the alternators and the belts going on here.
Yep. Okay. I've got everything bolted down. I got this, which you can't use a torque wrench on because you can't get a wrench actually on those, so it's as tight as it could be. And new hose. And a pest. Alternator, new alternator. Which actually came with the paperwork showing where they've tested it and made sure it produced power, so that's nice. Upside down.
Snappa?
Mm-hmm. I still get electrical components. If I gotta get one, I can't get original equipment. I tend to go with Napa just because, not a sponsor, but I've had to replace less of these new than anything else I've worked with.
When they come from Napa.
When they come from Napa. And so it's just one of those, I tend to go with them because I've had good luck with them. And I'm going to swing this in here. And I take that bolt off. And all the connections are good, so that's next. It's just going to be get the alternator on and get the belt back on. And belt pattern was somewhere. We showed it before. It's going to be under somewhere in here. There it is. Belt pattern.
And there you go. You're welcome again.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back when this is on. Okay. Well, what you missed is I've hooked everything up. Well, now it slid down too far. There we go. Hooked everything up before I bolted it in because it was easier. Got that all bolted down and dielectric grease on it so it won't corrode. Snapped it in place. Dielectric the bottom plug here real good and got it in and it's locked. Then put this bolt on, started it, and that's because you'll need to drop this down to get this belt fed. And that's what I'm working on now, is feeding this belt. I started the first part here before I got that on. And of course the belt managed to turn itself somehow, always. Oh, yep, I see what happened. Well, it slid off. That's my... I was talking about it was aggravating for that reason. And it slid off, and that's why it was twisted funny. Serpentine belts, they're always aggravating. Okay, we got the belt on. You see how it's fed? How this tensioner works, despite what the documentation says that you have to have a special tool from GM. You'll have to check to see what your size is. The varies on these pulleys, but this one ended up being 18 millimeter. And you just put it on there and push up, and it releases the tensioner. You can get your belt under there and let it back down. And there you go. Okay, I've got it assembled. I got to get coolant in it. And not sure we're going to get it running tonight because it's getting late. I've got to fix that because I can use it tomorrow. And we painted there was 2 spots that were starting to rust in the bottom of the battery pan. So we've painted it with just some Rust-Oleum semi-gloss. Couple coats. sanded it, got it cleaned up, and painted it to stop it from rusting. So that's got to dry. It's going to be a couple hours. It's 9 o'clock, so this is probably going to be it for tonight. It should run tomorrow though. Well, we got it pretty well finished up. I've got the last little bit of bleeding to do on this, or burping. I think I've gotten all the air out of it. We ran it and got the temperature last night, and you can see it's still full of coolant. So and no coolant system lights problem. There's still some check engine lights. Still can't get this fan to cut on, so it may be bad, but that's a matter of going through and messing with the relays, because it's probably the relay issue. And we tested the paint in here, which
Okay.
light came off. Of course, we set up the battery, so it managed to mess up some of the paint, setting the battery in just to run it to get it to temp. But I got to put all the brackets and all back in, so that's really all that's left to do there. Is put the brackets in, and then start it up and do a final burp to make sure everything's good. Alright, proceeding to get this battery back in there, which is kind of interesting because it's got a spot where the back part of the battery clip has to go into. And then you put this little block down in the front, which is easier said than done because, yeah, as you can see, not the most convenient. And the battery bracket holds the air box. It's the only thing that really holds the air box other than that and where it goes into the rubber feeding through. Yeah, line that up. Then this is a Jenga thing because this little hole goes under the bracket there to hold the air box. It's a piece of rubber. So you've got to try to get the wire up out of the way and everything in, and yeah, they didn't make this easy. And then don't want to hurt the air conditioning lines getting in there, so you got to keep it above that, below that. And this is actually a holding bracket for the air box too, so getting the wire through. They do not make this easy, although it could be worse. There's models that have it in less convenient places. Get that cover, because it always tries to get somewhere where you can't use it. And then you gotta pull that up, slide that under, line that up. Then you gotta try to get this bolt in, which I've already took the wrench away. Okay, this is a coarse 13mm, which is a pretty common size for this car when you don't get one of the oddballs that are still using standards. But using paper towel trick, I just got to kind of work this in and get it in the hole, get it through, and then try to line it up with the bolt in the bottom, not the bottom. He's always tripping its own. Okay, that should be about lined up with it. Maybe, maybe not. Ah, of course. Covered it from the subframe, got everything lined up using a screwdriver, and then put the bolt back in. It tightened up. Then you've got this one that holds the air box secured down. Lines up there. And then I gotta switch over there because somewhere I have there's a screw that goes there. And it's over in that mess somewhere. And then I get to feed this back in here because it squeezes right in here. And then one of these is a screw for this. I think that's the right one. cables on. And first, and I'll use this 5/16. It still uses the 5/16 standard. For the battery terminals, I changed the air filter while I have it all down. And when it gets started up, you'll see there's probably going to be check engine light at some point. I have that fan still to fix, and either the throttle control or the mass airflow sensor is having issues, so it's idling weird. Runs fine when you're driving, but it doesn't want to idle at a normal pace. So I'm going to have to go through and try to track down what's wrong and get that fixed. I'll be tightening all this thing. Okay, got all that done, and this hood release cable can actually go either behind or in front of this. I like it better on the outside, just because it's a little easier. If you ever have to do anything with the cable, you don't have to remove the battery. And then this thing is all kinds of fun because you got to press it between that and there. Get that in there, make sure the line doesn't crink. Plug the pump motor back in, just like that. And you get this bolt. Yep, I think I've switched the screws around.
And it's in once we got the proper screws in place.
Yeah, those two, for whatever reason, their threading is just a little different. Someone forgot there was a stop sign. Probably the same time someone else forgot there was a stop sign. They didn't hit each other this time.
Not like this morning.
So that's that. Okay. Give you the camera. Give you the keys, and you can start it up.
Woo.
We still got the beauty cover to put back on, but that's not right now because I got to do with the electronics here, so I'm not putting that on until I figure out what's making it still show engine needs serviced.
Alrighty, here we go. And there we are. RPM's right at freaking 1,000.
Look, so you can see the fluid is full and not moving around.
No service engine light.
It doesn't come on until the fan kicks on. So I think it's the fact the second fan can't be engaged is why the service engine light's coming on.
Probably, yeah.
So that's a whole nother, it could be the fan motor, it could be a relay, it could be a fuse. I've got to do some diagnostic stuff with that.
Okay.
But you can come look at this and you can see where it's idling and the fluid level is staying constant. I'm going to fill in more junk. I clean some junk out of it. There's no wetness down there where the pump is. That's real good. We got good current. I overfilled this bottle so when it was cold, it cooled down. I had it a little over the hot, and when it cooled down, it dropped down almost to the cold full level. I tend to do that when I change the coolant on this thing because once you bring temperature, when you pull back down, it'll suck water out of that bottle. You want to make sure you have plenty of coolant in there. That way, it's easier to pull a little bit out of that bottle that's over full than it is for it to suck air and you have to go back and burp it again. So, but it's all happy and good, so I think I've got all that done. It's drivable. I've got to diagnose this fan and figure out what's going on with it. But otherwise, it's good to go. Other than we're going to do projects on this thing still. I'm going to try to diagnose what's going on with that fan and do some maintenance stuff on it. And we're slowly switching and trying to put LED lights for all the secondary lighting, because this car has so many lights that when you turn the lights on, it sucks a volt of power from the alternator. So you go from putting out 14 volts to putting out 13 volts. And the headlights I'm going to leave standard because LED headlights don't really work with these headlights. But the fog lights, the indicator lights, the tail lights, all that stuff, we're going to, and all the convenience lights, including trying to figure out a way to make that work, since the casing fell out going down the road and vanished for all eternity. But try to get all that fixed so this thing has really good lights, because the bulbs are 30 years old. They're starting to burn out. I've got a burnout one in my center light that's been moved to the middle because they're weird bulbs, and I've had a few others that have been changed out and replaced with LED, and so yeah, that's going to be an interesting process. But so, till next time, like, share, subscribe, and have a good one.